One of the most exhausting ways people lose themselves is by trying too hard to keep everyone else comfortable. They say yes when they want to say no. They stay quiet when something hurts them. They smile when they are upset. They explain too much, apologize too quickly, adjust too often, and slowly, without even realizing it, they begin to live a life built around other people's reactions. This is people pleasing, and many people do not notice it at first because it looks harmless. It can even look kind, helpful, polite, easy to love, but underneath it, there is often a quiet fear of disappointing someone, fear of being misunderstood, fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear that if they stop being useful, flexible, easy, or available, they will become less worthy of love. So they keep giving, keep softening themselves, keep bending, keep making space for everyone else while making less and less space for themselves. And that is where the suffering begins. Because people pleasing does not only drain your energy, it separates you from your truth. You stop asking, "What do I actually feel?" and start asking, "What will make this easier for them?" You stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "How do I avoid upsetting anyone?" And after a while, you do not even know where your real voice went. That is the hidden cost. When you spend too much of your life managing other people's comfort, you lose connection with your own inner life. You become skilled at reading the room, but not yourself. Skilled at anticipating others, but not honoring your own limits. Skilled at being liked, but not always at being honest. And honesty matters, because a life without honesty becomes heavy, even if it looks peaceful from the outside. Many people pleasers look calm, but inside they are full of quiet resentment, not because they are cruel, not because they do not care, but because they keep betraying themselves in small ways and calling it love. They show up when they are drained, agree when they disagree, stay available when they need rest, keep relationships going long after their heart has left the room. And then one day, they feel tired in a way sleep cannot fix. Because this kind of tiredness is not physical, it is the tiredness of constantly editing yourself, the tiredness of swallowing your truth, the tiredness of being emotionally available when you are empty, the tiredness of carrying the pressure to be good in everyone's eyes. And the problem is, the more you live this way, the more normal it starts to feel. You call it kindness, maturity, patience, loyalty, but often it is fear dressed as virtue. And that is an important truth, because real kindness is not the same as self abandonment. Real kindness can include honesty, it can include boundaries, it can include saying, "I care about you, but I cannot do this." It can include disappointing someone without hating yourself for it. That is where healing begins. Not when you become cold, not when you stop caring, not when you turn hard and defensive, but when you learn that love does not require constant self erasure. That is the lesson many people were never taught. Some people learned early in life that being easy was safer than being real, that keeping the peace was safer than speaking up, that being useful earned more love than being honest, that being quiet caused less trouble than having needs. So now, as adults, they keep repeating the same pattern, not because they want to suffer, but because their nervous system still believes honesty is dangerous. So when they try to set a boundary, they feel guilt. When they say no, they feel selfish. When they express hurt, they feel dramatic. When they disappoint someone, they feel like they have done something wrong. But guilt is not always proof that you are doing the wrong thing. Sometimes guilt is just what growth feels like when you are no longer abandoning yourself. That is an important difference. Because one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in people pleasing is that they misunderstand discomfort. They think, if saying no feels bad, maybe I should not say it. If setting a boundary makes me anxious, maybe I am being unfair. If someone is upset with me, maybe I should fix it. But discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of changing an old pattern. And every healthy change feels uncomfortable before it feels natural. This is true in every part of life. The first honest conversation feels awkward. The first boundary feels harsh. The first no feels rude. The first moment of silence, when you would normally over-explain, feels unbearable. But these moments are not signs that you are becoming mean. They are signs that you are finally becoming visible. And visibility is frightening when you have spent years trying not to take up too much space. Because the people pleaser is often not asking what is right, they are asking, how do I remain lovable? And that question can quietly control your whole life. It can shape your relationships, your career, your friendships, your family role, even your identity. You begin to define yourself by how much you can hold, how much you can tolerate, how much you can smooth over. But eventually, that identity becomes a prison, because no one can live forever as a version of themselves designed only to make life easier for others. So, what is the solution? The solution is not to stop being kind. It is not to become selfish. It is not to suddenly stop caring what anyone feels. The solution is to learn the difference between care and self-betrayal. That difference changes everything. Care says, I respect your feelings. Self-betrayal says, so I must ignore mine. Care says, I want to help when I can. Self-betrayal says, so I must never have limits. Care says, I do not want to hurt you. Self-betrayal says, so I must never disappoint you. Do you hear the difference? One is love, the other is fear, and fear is not a stable foundation for a peaceful life. If you want to heal people-pleasing, you have to begin by telling yourself a new truth. Other people's disappointment is not always your responsibility. That sentence alone can feel radical, especially if you are used to being the fixer, the smoother, the helper, the one who always adjusts first. But it is true. Someone can be upset and you can still be right. Someone can misunderstand you and you can still be honest. Someone can want more from you than you are able to give, and that does not make you cruel. A boundary is not an attack. A no is not rejection. A limit is not a betrayal. It is simply a line that says, I exist too. And many people need to hear that. Because when you have spent years protecting everyone else's comfort, even basic self-respect can feel rude. So start small. Do not begin with the biggest confrontation of your life. Do not wait until resentment explodes. Begin in ordinary moments. Pause before saying yes. Ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Notice when your body says no before your mouth says yes. Notice where you feel tight, rushed, guilty, or pressured. Your body often tells the truth before your mind is ready to admit it. That tightness in your chest, that heaviness in your stomach, that sudden exhaustion when someone asks for more, those are not random. They are signals. Signals that something inside you is asking to be protected. And protection matters, because one of the deepest forms of self-respect is protection. Protecting your time, protecting your energy, protecting your peace, protecting your honesty, protecting the part of you that is tired of being used, overlooked, or constantly stretched. That is not selfish. That is healthy adulthood. And yes, some people will not like it. That is part of the healing. When you stop people-pleasing, you often discover who was only comfortable with you when you had no boundaries, who liked your silence more than your truth, who enjoyed your availability more than your real presence. That can be painful, but it is clarifying, because relationships built on your self-erasure are not peaceful relationships. They are imbalanced ones. Real love has room for your no. Real respect has room for your honesty. Real care does not disappear the moment you become inconvenient. That is how you begin to see more clearly. And maybe that is the deeper gift of boundaries. They do not only protect your peace, they reveal the quality of your relationships. If someone punishes you every time you are honest, that is information. If someone withdraws the moment you stop overgiving, that is information. If someone only feels close to you when you are endlessly available, that is information. Painful information maybe, but useful, because the goal is not to keep every connection at any cost. The goal is to build a life where your truth is allowed to exist, and that requires courage. Courage to be misunderstood, courage to be less convenient, courage to stop performing goodness in ways that destroy your own inner peace. Because in the end, people-pleasing is a performance. Not always a fake one, but still a performance. A constant effort to control how you are seen, felt, received, approved of. And control is exhausting. You cannot control whether everyone understands you. You cannot control whether everyone agrees with your boundary. You cannot control whether someone feels disappointed, uncomfortable, or frustrated. You can only control whether you keep abandoning yourself to avoid those feelings. That is the real choice, and once you see that, everything begins to shift. You begin to realize that peace is not found in finally making everyone happy. That is impossible. Peace is found in becoming honest enough that your outer life and inner life are no longer constantly in conflict. That is what boundaries do. They reduce inner conflict. They let your yes mean yes, your no mean no. Your kindness come from generosity, not fear. Your help come from choice, not pressure. And that kind of life feels different, lighter, cleaner, more real. It does not mean easier in every moment, but it means truer. And truth has a kind of peace that performance can never give you. So if you have been exhausted from always being the understanding one, the available one, the easy one, maybe this is what you need to hear. You are allowed to have preferences. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to need rest. You are allowed to say no without writing a full essay. You are allowed to protect your peace even if someone else does not like it. You are allowed to stop shrinking, because your life cannot become whole if your truth is always being pushed aside to make room for everyone else. At some point, healing means becoming willing to disappoint others a little so you do not keep disappointing yourself deeply. That is a hard lesson, but it is a freeing one, and maybe real kindness begins there, not in endless sacrifice, not in constant availability, not in disappearing so others can feel more comfortable, but in learning how to care without abandoning yourself. That is maturity. That is self-respect. That is peace. And for many people, that is where life finally begins to feel like it belongs to them again.